This is what's wrong currently in the housing market, okay?
And this is why you need to speak to a loan officer before you speak to a realtor, because we have completely different things that we each do.
I just got off the phone with a gentleman who is 26 years old who makes I'm gonna save that, but I got information that I told him I was gonna share. I said I was gonna make a TikTok about it because.
And it's great that he got permission from the person he's speaking to before giving up this information. 100%.
Gentleman calls me, young, doing great things in his life, and I did ask permission to share certain details. He's married, he has a kid, and he's looking to move to Delaware.
I'm licensed in Delaware. I do help a lot of clients in Delaware, and Delaware has some great, not only communities, but benefits to being a first-time home buyer in that area, and it's tax-free state and all sorts of other happy, neat, fun stuff.
Now, this person has flown through their career, done exceedingly well. And now between him and his wife now working a educational job, making about 45 grand, their household income is gonna be 165 grand.
It's awesome that they're making that amount of money. That's fantastic and great, and they should be able to live a comfortable life.
165 grand. Now, both of them took on a little bit of student debt through college to get into their careers. Both own a vehicle, and both are paying for childcare for this child that you wouldn't believe what it costs to get a kid through preschool these days.
Childcare expenses are high. I am a single mom. I can 100% attest to that. However, what I see some people paying for the childcare expenses versus what they could be paying varies. And he already stated that these people are moving from wherever they're at to Delaware for their job, which means the cost of childcare where they're at versus where they're going could also be drastically different. I had a 24-hour daycare and I paid $600 a month, and this wasn't that long ago. My daughter's only 13. And 24-hour daycare. Think about that. 24-hour daycare. Because the job that I worked in at that point in time, I needed it. Now, things have gone up exponentially. I'm not saying that they haven't. Since she was at that age group. She's only 13 now. But my ex is paying $1,000 a month where his wife works. That's the discounted amount. And I would never pay that. There's 17 other daycares that they've passed by that would be able to provide the same services that they're getting that are significantly less money. There's ways. It sucks. None of it's great, but there's ways. And unfortunately, a higher cost preschool or daycare isn't necessarily any better than the lower cost ones. It's all about who the staff is and how they perform.
And I remember being able to have that conversation with a real estate agent, buy a property. I had to tell this man, based off of his debt and based off of what he was making, based off a couple other questions that I won't divulge, that he would be able to afford a $287,000 to about $290,000 house based off some math that I was doing now.
Based on Realtor Math, not based on loan officer math. Now, I don't know this client. I don't know this realtor by any stretch of imagination, but Realtor Math versus loan officer math is very, very different. We have two debt to income ratios that we have to worry about, front end or back end. And in this video, he doesn't state if it's front end debt to income ratio or back end debt to income ratio that he's counting. Also, the childcare expenses aren't part of any DTI because that's not something that's listed on your paycheck stub nor on your credit report. So that's an expense that we're not counting in. However, he also doesn't mention if it's a question of what the client is looking for a monthly payment. So the client could say, I only want to make this payment per month. Okay, if you want this payment, here's the amount of house that you can afford. And every person who's thinking about buying a house, this is an important thing to think about. When you're going to rent a place, you're thinking about the monthly payment because the monthly payment is what you're dealing with every single month. So in this case, we don't know from his story how much of it is realtor math versus actual guideline math. How much of it is how much house can I afford based on the monthly payment I want to get to. And a lot of that's also going to be dictated by the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance, both of which are very low in Delaware versus some other areas.
Also, this person has reserves and has savings. That it's not $1 billion. Obviously, they don't need a mortgage if they got that, but they do, and they've done so responsibly. They've gotten great jobs. They're working hard. It's just...
I appreciate the passion of this realtor. My problem is there's so many things that are wrong with him trying to tell a client what they can afford according to guidelines and rules. If he's trying to get to a certain monthly payment for that client, that's one thing. If he's trying to figure out debt to income ratio, are we talking about front end debt to income ratio, which is just your housing, which we have to be aware of, or are we talking about back end debt to income ratio? A couple things in this is qualified income often differs from what people think that they make. So that's going to have a huge effect. He doesn't have access or shouldn't have access to the paycheck stubs. He doesn't and shouldn't have access to the credit report. There doesn't have access to going off a ballpark. This is part of the reason why realtors want you to have a pre-approval or pre-qualification. A pre-qualification done correctly is getting your documents, running AUS, which is the automatic underwriting system. A pre-approval done correctly is going to an underwriter for approval, not a loan officer, because by license type, I cannot approve your loan. As a licensed loan officer cannot approve your loan. We cannot pre-approve your loan. Only an underwriter can. My lane is to gather the documents, to crunch the numbers, to know what's qualified income, what's not, to figure out what loan program is going to fit you best in your scenario best. It's an underwriter's job to pre-approve and to approve your loan. It's a realtor's job to negotiate the housing purchase contract and repairs and schedule appraisals and make sure that you're protected when you're buying the house and help you find the house that's going to work for your needs. Their job is not the funding. That's my job. My job is not to approve the loan, it's to pre-qualify the loan. We all have lanes. I stick in mine. I would never tell his client, you need to ask for 6% seller concessions. Under no circumstances do you accept anything other than a 6% seller concession. Oh, that house is way overpriced. You need to ask for $20,000 less. I would never tell a client they should always offer less than asking. Not my lane.
These people have to move for their job. I'm telling him, you make over $150,000 and I can't get you a mortgage?
No, you're a realtor. You can't get them a mortgage. You're a realtor. No, you cannot get them a mortgage. Period. That should be the end of that.
And the problem with it is because that person now is looking to the rental market, and what are they seeing? They're not seeing a lot. They're seeing a lot of high prices. They're not seeing a lot of inventory available, just like home buying. And these people are now thinking, what are we gonna do?
And that's why your team matters.
And there's so many people across the country who are thinking that exact question for many different reasons, but all feeling stuck where they're at and thinking, what am I going to do next? What am I gonna do now? And frankly, I didn't have an answer for him right on that call. We are gonna have a talk with the lender. We are gonna get into the details of their finances.
If you want it, don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Never denied, sometimes delayed because you just haven't found the right team yet. It's all about your team and finding the one that works for you.